All right, so get this, listeners. Today we're going deep, like really deep, into the Zodiac Killer case.
Ooh, it is a good one. A classic.
It is, but we're focusing on the early days, like before the ciphers, before the letters, just those first few months that had everyone in Vallejo living in fear. And to help us piece it all together, we're using audio from the Case File podcast.
Yeah, those early months are crucial, I think. You can really see the case starting to take shape, all the twists and turns, the dead ends. It's fascinating stuff.
Right. Okay, so let's rewind the clock. We're talking 1966, Benicia, California. This is 2 years before the events covered in the audio, but it's a detail that I think sets the stage. The murder of Sherry Jo Bates.
Ah, yes. Sherry Jo Bates. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because if we assume, and that's a big IF, that the Zodiac was responsible for her death,
Right.
it kind of paints a picture of someone who is, let's say, comfortable with violence,
Yeah.
maybe operating under the radar for a while.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So let's fast forward to December 20th, 1968. Lake Herman Road, pretty well-known Lover's Lane. A guy named William Crow and his girlfriend were parked there, just minding their own business.
Oh, I know Lake Herman Road.
Right.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Super creepy, yeah. So they're parked, and suddenly this car pulls up behind them, a light-colored Chevrolet
Oh,
Impala.
and Impala. See, now that's interesting because later on, Impalas, they pop up again and again in witness accounts, almost like it was the Zodiac signature ride.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe. So anyway, this Impala starts reversing towards them. I mean, talk about unsettling.
Well, I'd be out of there.
Crow was smart. He decided to get out of there fast, and the Impala followed, flashing its high beams.
Oh no, that's terrifying.
I know, right? Like straight out of a horror movie. Crow managed to lose the Impala, but then he saw it parked at an intersection as if waiting for him to come back.
Oh, that sends shivers down my spine. Talk about stalker vibes. Makes you wonder if Crow's quick thinking maybe saved their lives. And did that frustrated driver then decide to find some new victims?
Which leads us to our first official victims covered in Case File. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. Young couple, first date. They park at that same spot on Lake Herman Road just over an hour after Crow's encounter.
It's a cold December night. The area's deserted. They're completely vulnerable. It's like the perfect setup.
Yeah, it's eerie how the pieces fit together. So they're in the car, and out of nowhere, a man appears. He has a flashlight. But here's the chilling part. It's taped to his handgun.
Oh, wow.
He fires a few warning shots and then just shoots them. Both David and Betty Lou, dead. It's brutal. It seems totally random. No robbery, nothing.
The type of crime that just like grips a community. Everyone's on edge.
Exactly. So there's a witness, Stella Borges. She sees the bodies, but she's too scared to stop. And because the ground is frozen, there aren't many clues.
Except, don't forget those .22 caliber shell casings.
Oh, right. Those are important.
Super important because, it tells us something about the weapon. And later on, if we see more .22 casings, well, that could be a crucial link.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, to add to the mystery, there's a note found in Betty Lou's locker. It mentions a boy named Richard Burton. They called him Ricky. He'd been harassing Betty Lou and had even threatened David.
Ah, so the police here was in on him. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, it seems like an obvious lead.
Motive, threats, but then his family provides him with an alibi for the night of the murders.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. Alibis can be faked. Maybe someone was covering for him.
True.
Well-
We can't rule him out just yet. We have to keep an open mind.
Okay, so we've got a potential suspect. But remember those witnesses who saw that suspicious Impala around the time of the murders? Well, their descriptions of the car's color are all over the place.
Ah, yes, the mysterious Impala. Some say it was white, others cream, even blue or gray. What was it?
I know, right? It's like a chameleon car. Maybe he was changing his appearance on purpose, trying to throw off the police?
Or maybe there were multiple cars. Multiple Impalas.
Ooh, that's a good point. Okay, so we've got a potential suspect in Ricky, a mysterious Impala, and a whole lot of fear brewing in Vallejo. And then we have another character that enters the picture, a guy named Pete. This is where things get really creepy.
Oh, tell me about Pete. He's a new one. What did he do?
So this guy, Pete, he shows up at the house of a former neighbor named Linda, and he starts asking all these weird questions about Vallejo. And get this, he mentions that he owns guns.
Oh, wow. Chillin'.
Right. I mean, after what happened to David and Betty Lou, who wouldn't be terrified?
Absolutely. And from a police perspective, they have to look into everything, every lead, no matter how strange it might seem.
Totally. So they investigate Pete, but it's another dead end. In fact, at this point, they've questioned over 100 people, and the case is starting to go cold. Betty Lou's father said it best. He said, "I feel some nut is on the loose." Ugh, that's a chilling quote. You can just feel the fear, the sense that anyone could be next. They knew it wasn't over, that the Zodiac was still out there waiting to strike again.
And strike again he did.
Yeah.
But we'll have to save that for part 2. This is already getting intense.
I know, right? Buckle up, listeners, because this is only the beginning. Okay, so it's July 4th, 1969, 6 months after the Lake Herman Road murders. The Zodiac decides to strike again. Another lover's lane, this time the parking lot at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo.
Another couple, too. Darlene Farron, she was 22, and Michael McGough, he was 19. They were just starting their date when this brown car pulls up next to them.
A brown car, huh? Now that's interesting. See, it makes you wonder, was this the same Impala from Lake Herman Road? Or was he, switching things up, using different cars to throw off the cops?
Yeah, good point. So this car, it parks next to them. Then the driver, he leaves, circles back a few minutes later, and then he approaches their car with a flashlight.
Oh, man. That's so creepy, just like lurking in the shadows. Totally. And, it's that same pattern, right? Watching them, stalking them, waiting for the right moment.
It's calculated, like he's not acting on impulse. This guy, he plans things out.
And then, bam, he just opens fire, doesn't say a word. Darlene and Michael are hit multiple times. And then, get this, the Zodiac, he hears Michael cry out in pain, so he comes back and shoots them both again.
Wow. I mean, it's just cold-blooded, efficient. He's not messing around. He wants them dead.
And here's where it gets even crazier. Less than an hour later, the Vallejo Police Department, they get a phone call. It's a man claiming responsibility for the shooting. He gives details about the location, even the weapon. He says it was a 9mm Luger.
Oh, wow. So he's like taunting them now.
Totally. I mean, it's a game to him. He's putting himself in the spotlight.
He wants the attention, clearly.
Right. So the cops, they rush to the phone booth, but they find nothing. Back at the crime scene, they find 7 9mm shell casings. But that's it. No other clues.
Like a ghost, almost like he just vanishes into thin air.
So, Darlene, she was married. Naturally, her husband, Dean, he becomes a suspect. But he had an alibi. They clear him pretty quickly. Then, Michael, he survived, thankfully. He tells the police about this guy named George Waters. Said he'd been harassing Darlene.
Oh, so maybe a jealous ex or something? Could be a connection?
It seemed promising at the time, but it turned out to be another dead end. The cops, they questioned George Waters, but he denied everything. And like Dean, he had an alibi too.
Man, so frustrating. Every time they think they're getting close, it just slips away.
Back to square one. But there's one thing. Michael, while he's in the hospital recovering, he gives a description of the shooter. He says it was a heavy-set man, light curly hair, in his 20s.
Okay, so we're starting to get a picture of this guy.
Right, but remember all those different descriptions of the Impala? Well, now we've got different descriptions of the Zodiac, too. So is he deliberately changing his appearance, like with the car, maybe? Or are the witnesses just, unreliable?
Hard to say, right? But it definitely adds to the mystery.
Oh, and remember that babysitter we talked about before? The one who saw that suspicious guy outside Darlene's house a few months before the shooting? Well, she was put under hypnosis, and she gave a similar description. Heavy set, but this time middle-aged, with dark brown curly hair.
Wait, hold on. 2 different witnesses, months apart, and they both describe a heavy-set guy with curly hair. That's got to be significant.
And it's even creepier? This babysitter, she claimed that Darlene had told her, "I saw him murder someone." Now, we don't know who she was talking about, but...
Oh, wow. That's just chilling. So maybe he was active even before Lake Herman Road.
Right. I mean, it's possible. So, meanwhile, the police, they're getting flooded with tips. One letter even pointed to a 22-year-old named Charles, lived in a pink house near Lake Herman Road.
It's amazing how these cases, they just capture people's imaginations. Everyone wants to be the one to solve it.
And some of the tips were just, bizarre. There was this couple who got a letter from their relative, and he claimed he was a hitman for the mafia.
Oh, come on. A mafia hitman. Really?
I know, right? Talk about a wild goose chase. But then, on July 31st, 1969, things took a major turn. The San Francisco Chronicle, they received a letter. And this letter, it changed everything.
This is it, right? The infamous Zodiac letter.
The one and only. He claims responsibility for both the Lake Herman Road and the Blue Rock Springs murders. And then he includes this cipher. He says it'll reveal his identity.
Wow, a cipher. That's pretty bold. Like he's challenging them.
Right. So the Chronicle, along with the San Francisco Examiner and the Vallejo Times-Herald, they all get similar letters with different parts of the cipher. And after a lot of debate, they decide to publish it.
I bet that was a tough decision.
Yeah.
Like, on the one hand, you don't want to give him the attention he craves.
Exactly. But on the other hand, maybe someone out there can crack the code, right? And, well, someone did. A school teacher and his wife from Salinas, California. They worked on it for like 20 hours straight, and they figured it out.
Wow, that's incredible. Just two ordinary people, and they cracked the Zodiac's code.
Let's talk about dedication. So, what did the message say? Well, let's just say it was a pretty disturbing glimpse into the mind of a killer.
What did it say?
Okay, are you ready for this? It said, I like killing people because it is so much fun. Man is the most dangerous animal of all. When I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the people I have killed will become my slaves.
Oh, God. That is messed up. I mean, this guy, he's not just a murderer, he's a sadist. He enjoys it.
I know, it's chilling. So they cracked the code, but the Zodiac's identity, it's still a mystery. He's still out there, and the police are no closer to catching him.
And that's not all, folks. He's not done yet. He's just getting started.
Okay, so we left off with the Zodiac just vanishing, like he wasn't ever there. But he wasn't done yet, not even close. It's September 27th, 1969. He chooses Lake Berryessa, you know, that spot north of San Francisco?
Yeah, Lake Berryessa, I've been there. It's beautiful, but
Right.
yeah, after hearing all this, it's definitely got a different vibe to it now.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So picture this, right? It's a Saturday, beautiful day, tons of people out enjoying the sunshine. And there's this couple, Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell. They're having a picnic.
At Lake Berryessa.
Yep, Lake Berryessa. So they're just relaxing. And suddenly, this guy walks up to them, and he's wearing this, like, crazy costume, like a hooded thing.
A hooded costume in broad daylight.
I know, right? It's like something out of a comic book.
Yeah.
And get this, he's got this symbol on his chest, a circle with a cross through it.
Wait, the Zodiac symbol?
The one and only.
Wow. Okay, so he's not even trying to hide anymore.
Nope, he's going all in. So this guy, he tells them he's an escaped convict, ties them up, and then he just starts stabbing them over and over.
Oh, God. That's just brutal. I mean, the shootings were bad enough, but this is just a whole other level.
Right. I mean, it's personal, up close. You can almost feel the rage, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But here's the thing. Even in the middle of this horrific attack, he's still in control. He doesn't panic. He leaves them there, thinks they're dead. But before he takes off, he writes this message on Brian's car door.
A message. What did it say?
Okay, so it has the dates of the other attacks, the Zodiac symbol, and then he writes, by knife.
Oh, man. Like, he's proud of it. He wants credit.
Exactly. And just 40 minutes later, the Napa Police Department, they get a call. A guy, he reports a double murder, says he did it.
Wait, so he calls him himself?
Yep. And he gives them directions, tells them exactly where to find the bodies, even describes what they're wearing. Like, he wants them to know it was him.
This guy's playing them, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He's having fun. So the cops get to Lake Berryessa, but of course, he's gone. Cecilia, she dies a few days later from her injuries. But Brian, he survives. And he's able to give the police a description of the attacker.
So finally, they have something to go on.
They do. They've got a pretty detailed description now. And they even have a fingerprint, a bloody one right there on Brian's car.
Okay, so this is it, right? They've got to be able to track him down with a fingerprint.
You would think so, wouldn't you? But no. They run it through their database. Nothing. No match.
Are you kidding me? How is that even possible?
I know. It's crazy. But this guy, he's like a phantom. Just when you think you're close, he slips away. And just like that, he strikes again. October 11th, 1969. San Francisco this time. He shoots a cab driver, Paul Stein, takes a piece of his shirt.
A piece of his shirt? Why?
I don't know. It's like a souvenir or something. Anyway, he kills him in broad daylight, just like that. And 3 witnesses, they see him running away. The cops, they put out a sketch based on their descriptions, and it's a pretty good match to Brian Hartnell's description.
Okay, this is it. They have a sketch, they have witnesses, they have to catch him this time.
I know. But then there's this mix-up, a miscommunication on the police radio. The description, it gets changed. They're told to look for a white male instead of a black male. And guess what?
Oh, no. You're kidding me.
The cops, they encounter the Zodiac right after the murder, but they let him go.
Oh, man, that's just heartbreaking. So close.
And it's all downhill from there. He sends more letters, more ciphers, even a Halloween card.
A Halloween card? Seriously?
I'm not kidding. It said, I hope you have a beautiful Halloween.
Oh, that's so creepy.
So many leads, so many suspects, but none of them panned out. To this day, the Zodiac Killer, he's never been caught. He just disappeared. vanished into thin air.
I don't get it. How can someone just disappear like that?
I know, it's mind-boggling, right? I mean, after all this, after everything we've learned, it just makes you wonder, who was this guy?
Was he some kind of criminal mastermind? Or was he just lucky?
And what happened to him?
Yeah, where did he go?
That's the thing about the Zodiac case, isn't it? It's not just about the murders, it's about the mystery, the unanswered questions. It just stays with you.
Yeah, it does. It really makes you realize that some mysteries, well, they just may never be solved.
And that's where we'll have to leave it for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another case, another look into the dark side of history. Until then, sleep tight, listeners.
Oh,